MCQs on body fluids and circulation. First question. Which of the following leukocytes destroy foreign organisms entering the body by phagocytosis? First one, eosinophils. Second one, basophils. Third one, neutrophils. Fourth one, monocytes. Fifth one, lymphocytes. Now options 2 and 3, that is basophils and neutrophils. Second option 1 and 2, that means eosinophils and basophils. Option 3, that is 4 and 5, that means monocytes and lymphocytes. And fourth option 3 and 4, that is neutrophils and monocytes. Which is the right option? It is monocytes and neutrophils. So they will attack the invading foreign particles, and thus they will be killed by the process called as phagocytosis. Option 4. Next, which among the following statements are correct and which are wrong? Statement 1. Plasma constitutes about 45% of blood. Is that true? No. Plasma, it constitutes about 55% in blood. Second statement, albumin is plasma protein involved in osmotic balance. Is that true? No. Albumin. So in that immunoglobulins, it is nothing but a type of albumin which is involved in the secretion or production of antibodies, and thus they attack the invading organisms, foreign particles or disease causing organisms, and thus they provide immunity to us. And then third statement, blood clotting factors are present in blood. Of course, they are present in blood. And fourth statement, plasma without clotting factors is serum, of course. And fifth one, minerals are not found in blood. Are they present? Are they not present here? Of course, they are present here and thus. Now, so we have to find the correct statements as well as incorrect statements. So options, option 1 and 2 correct, 3, 4, 5 are wrong. Second option, statement 1 and 4 are correct and 5 it is wrong. Third option, 2 and 4 are correct and 1, 3, 5 are wrong. Fourth option, 2, 3, 4 are correct, whereas 5 is wrong. So which is the right option? Option 4. Which ones of the following statements are wrong? We have to find out the wrong statement. Option 1, RBC, WBC and blood platelets are produced by bone marrow only. In adults, it is of course produced from the bone marrow. Whereas in the fetus, what happens? Whereas in the embryonic stage, early embryonic stage, these are also formed in the liver as well as spleen and also the mesoderm yolk sac. So that statement, it becomes wrong. And then second statement, leukocytes disintegrate in spleen and liver. Third option, third statement, important function of lymphocytes is to produce toxins for phagocytosis. Fourth statement, neutrophils brings about destruction and detoxification of toxins of protein origin. Options, option 1, statement 1 and 2 only. They are asking for the wrong statement. They are asking for the wrong statement. And second option, 1 and 2 only. Third option, 2 and 3 only. Fourth option, 1 and 3 only. So which are the wrong options? So which are the wrong statements? Statement number 1, it is wrong. Whereas the leukocytes disintegrate in spleen and liver, that statement is true. An important function of lymphocytes is to produce toxins for phagocytosis. The function of lymphocytes, see, there are two types of lymphocytes like B lymphocytes and T lymphocytes. B lymphocytes are nothing but the lymphocytes which are born from bone marrow, and they will get matured in case of inside the bone marrow itself. And these B lymphocytes are involved in the production of antibodies. Whereas there are one other type of lymphocytes present, that is T lymphocytes. That means, of course, they are originated from the bone marrow, but they get matured and differentiated in the thymus gland, and hence the name T lymphocytes, and hence the name T lymphocytes. So, what is the function of them? It is to produce toxins for phagocytosis, they has given. But the main functions of these lymphocytes are to produce antibodies and thus to provide the immunity against the invading pathogens. That is one of the important factors of these lymphocytes. and other function is they act as the memory cells. So they will be acting as memory cells. So when a person he is exposed to a disease causing organism, these lymphocytes they start secreting antibodies, and these antibodies they get attached to the invaded pathogen and thus destroys that. So when the person is exposed to that particular kind of pathogen for the first time, and again in his lifetime, again when he gets exposed to the same kind of antigen in the future, these lymphocytes they act as memory cells. They will be having the memory about those first invaded pathogens, and thus they immediately identifies the invaded pathogen and immediately starts secreting antibodies and attacks them. Okay. And neutrophils bring about destruction and detoxification of toxins of protein origin, of course. So which is the right option? Option 4. Next question. An RH negative individual receives RH positive blood. So here they are saying that an RH negative individual, he receives the blood from RH positive. RH positive, the recipients become. So here they has given options. Option 1 dead, 2 sterile, 3 isoimmunized, 4 no reactions. So what happens when an RH individual, negative individual receives the blood from RH positive person? In the first transfusion, see, RH negative in the sense this person will not be having RH antigen on the RBCs. So there are no antigens derived from macaque rhesus. Whereas in the person who is RH positive, whose blood group is positive, so this person will be having RH antigen on their surface of RBCs. So during the first transfusion, no problem occurs here. So no consequences occur. But however, a little amount of antibodies will be present in this person against the RH antigens. Whereas during the second transfusion, what happens? During the second transfusion, antibodies will be produced in a large scale against this RH antigen, and thus it results in the agglutination. So here what happens in the second transfusion, clumping of blood occurs due to the production of antibodies. So these RH antibodies which are present in this, which are formed in this person, they attacks the RH antigens. So it leads to the blood clumping, that is agglutination, and finally leads to death. So here what is the option? It is 3. Isoimmunized. So RH antibodies are formed here. So option 3. Next question. Which of the following pair of substance play very important role in clotting of blood? So which is the main clotting factor they are asking? Option A, that is 1 potassium oxalate and sodium citrate. Second option, platelet factors and oxalates. Third option, calcium ions and platelet factors. Fourth one, heparin and citrates. So which is the main clotting factors here? Which is the pair of main clotting factors? It is calcium ions and platelet factors. They play an important role in the process called as blood coagulation, and calcium ions, it is a clotting factor, and due to the presence of this calcium ions, the activation and action of certain clotting factors occurs. So it is the main important thing, and hence third option 3 is the right one, that is calcium ions and platelet factors. Next, select the correct combination and statements for lymph. Option statement 1, it helps to maintain fluid balance of the body, of course. Second statement, it is contained by lymphatic vessels and lymphatic organs in mammals. So it contains not only lymphatic vessels and lymphatic organs, it also contains the lymph ducts as well as lymphatic capillaries. So second statement will be wrong. Third statement, it derives less antibodies than that of the plasma. Of course, it derives the less antibodies. And fourth option, it contains less antibodies than plasma. Fifth one, it flows in both the directions. But lymph which is formed near the capillaries. So you people know that how the lymph is formed. If these are the blood capillaries, these blood capillaries will be having holes in them. So when the oxygenated blood rushes through this capillaries, what happens? The fluid part, it oozes out, the colorless fluid part oozes out of the capillaries from the capillaries, except the large proteins as well as RBCs. RBCs and large proteins will not ooze out, otherwise the fluid part, that is plasma, it gets oozed out and it settles in between the cells, and this liquid which is oozed out from the capillaries other than RBCs and proteins is called as lymph. You people know that. So that is called as the lymph. And this lymph, see, that has given the option it flows in both the direction. So this lymph, what happens? It has to be restored in the blood, because when all the fluid part is removed, the blood it gets thickened. So to retain that liquid consistency, this lymph has to be restored into the blood vessels, and thus this lymph, it is carried by the lymphatic system. It will be having the lymph vessels, and again this flows to the heart. So this lymph is taken by the lymphatic vessels to the heart for the further circulation, and thus the restore of fluid takes place within the blood. So always lymph moves towards the heart, and that is unidirectional in nature, but here they have given it flows in both the directions. So it only flows to the heart. Okay. And then next option, next statement, it helps to conserve proteins and remove bacteria, of course. So options 1, 2, 3 and 5. Second option 1, 4, 5 and 6. Third option 1, 3, 4 and 6. Make it as 1. That has given 2. Make it as 1. And 4, 3, 4, 5 and 6. So which is the right option here? That is third option. Statements 1, 3, 4 and 6. These are the right correct options. Statements. Next question. Serum differs from blood in option A, lacking antibodies, B, lacking clotting factors, 3, lacking globulins, 4, lacking albumins. So serum, it differs from blood in lacking clotting factors, because in serum clotting factors will not be present. So serum is nothing but the blood. It contains plasma but minus clotting factors. Okay, option 2. Blood pumped by the heart passes through large vessels into open spaces or body cavity called sinuses. This type of system is present in option A, that is 1, arthropods and molluscans, 2, annelids and molluscans, 3, mammals and birds, 4, all of the above. So this is found usually in the lower organisms like arthropods and molluscans. Option 1. Well, what is the correct order of these events? They have given events, we have to tell the correct options, correct order of those events. 1. Conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. Second statement, clot, retraction and leakage of serum. Third one, thromboplastin formation. Fourth one, conversion of prothrombin to thrombin. Option 1, 3, 2, 1, 4. Second option, 3, 4, 1, 2. Third option, 3, 4, 1, 2. And fourth option, 4, 1, 3, 2. So which is the correct sequence here? That is, first is in these events, first thromboplastin formation occurs, and then it is followed by the conversion of prothrombin into thrombin. See, prothrombin, it is an inactive form, and it gets converted into its active form called as thrombin. Once thrombin is formed, it acts as enzyme now. So after the thrombin formation, now this catalyzes the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin. So fibrinogen, it is a clotting factor which is present in its inactive form. So this thrombin, so now thrombin acts as an enzyme, and this thrombin along with the calcium ions, it catalyzes the conversion of fibrinogen to fibrin, and after that clotting occurs, and after a few days, what happens? After a few days of clot formation, the wound, it starts to heal, it dries. So at that time what happens, there will be a clot retraction. That means the clot contracts. So which is the right option? After the contraction of this clot, it results in the leakage of serum. So which is the right option? Option 3. Next question. Which of the following statements is correct? 1. RH compatibility must be tested before pregnancy established and blood transfusion, of course. Second option, RH bonding antibodies can cross placenta, of course. And third option, at the time of first delivery, some of the RH positive RBCs from the baby mix the mother's blood through the placenta. So when the placenta is RH positive and when the mother is RH negative, at that time what happens in the first delivery, some of the RH factors from the baby mixes the mother's blood through the placenta. Option 4, that is all the above. So which is the right option? All the above is the right option. Option D. Which of the following statement are correct regarding blood clotting? Okay. So statement 1, it is necessary for blood coagulation. Second statement, coagulation in blood vessel is prevented during normal condition by heparin. C. So here they are asking for the correct statement regarding blood clotting. So it is necessary for the blood coagulation so that the heavy leakage of the blood, it will be stopped. And second statement that has given us coagulation in blood vessel is prevented during normal conditions by heparin. Because heparin, it is anticoagulant which prevents the clotting of blood inside the blood vessels. So blood under normal conditions, it should not clot, so that is maintained by heparin. And third statement, clotting of blood involves the changes of fibrinogen to fibrin by thrombin. Of course, why? Because fibrinogen, it is an inactive in nature, whereas this fibrin, it is the active form of this clotting factor. And then fourth statement, blood clotting involves cascading process involving a number of factors present in the active form always. But of course it is a cascade because the blood clotting, it occurs not only in a single step, it takes several steps, many steps one by one, and thus that is called as cascade, blood clotting cascade. But all the clotting factors in the blood, they will always be in their inactive forms, not the active forms. So statement 4 is wrong where others are correct. So option A 1, 3, 4, second option 2 and 4, third option 3 and 4, and fourth option 1, 2 and 3. Which is the right option? It is fourth option. Mitral valve is found between option A, left atrium and left ventricle. Second option, left atrium and right ventricle. Third option, right atrium and left ventricle. And fourth option, right atrium and right ventricle. So where is mitral valve present? See, this is the left atrium and this one is the left ventricle, and this is the right atrium and this is the right ventricle. So this is the mitral valve or bicuspid valve. Bicuspid valve, and this one is not this one. So this one, and this one is the tricuspid valve. So mitral valve, where it is present? It is present in between the left auricle and left ventricle. So which is the right option? So option A, left atrium and left ventricle. Next, chordae tendineae are found in option A, joints of legs, B, atria of heart, C, ventricles of heart, D, ventricles of brain. Where are they present? They are present in the ventricles. So here in these ventricles, conical muscles are present. So these are called as papillary muscles. And a string of beads arises here, and this is called as chordae tendineae, and it is present in the ventricles of heart. Option C. Which of these accelerates the neurogenic heartbeat? But what do you mean by neurogenic heartbeat? It is usually found in the lower organisms. So here heartbeat is initiated. It is initiated So initiation of heartbeat is under a ganglion. So it is initiated by the nerves and hence it is called as neurogenic heartbeat, whereas in higher organisms like us, myogenic heart is present because the heartbeat is initiated, it is self-regulated, so it is initiated by the sinoatrial node. Okay, so options, I'll read out the options. Option A, adrenaline, B, acetylcholine, C, norepinephrine, D, all of this. So which of these accelerates the neurogenic heartbeat? That means the ganglion, that is nerves, it initiates the heartbeat in those organisms, and it is by the secretion of acetylcholine. So this acetylcholine, it accelerates the neurogenic heartbeat. Next, what happens when the pacemaker is non-functional? What do you mean by pacemaker? So here in case of our heart, SA node, that is sinoatrial node, is called as pacemaker because it undergoes depolarization and thus it initiates the contraction of ventricles and thus heartbeat is initiated. Okay, so what happens when the pacemaker, it becomes non-functional? Option 1, only ventricles will contract rhythmically. Option 2, only the auricles will contract rhythmically. 3, auricles and ventricles contract simultaneously, and D, the cardiac muscles do not contract in a coordinated manner rhythmically. See, I told you it is a pacemaker and it maintains the pace of heartbeat. So it maintains it in a rhythmatic way. So if it is not functioning properly, so there will be a problem in its contraction, in the contraction of chambers, and the heartbeat, it will not occur in a rhythmatic way. So option D. Which of the following is mismatched? On the left side they has given the sounds as well as other things, and on the right side we have to match these. So first one, love. Second one, cardiac output. Third one, dub. Fourth one, duration of a cardiac cycle. And on the right side, they has given first heart sound associated with closure of tri and bicuspid valve. So we have to find out the mismatched one. Love, they has given first heart sound associated with the closure of tricuspid and bicuspid valve. Second one, cardiac output, that means the stroke volume multiplied by heart rate, we get the cardiac output. Dub, second heart sound due to the opening of semilunar valves. Here during the opening of any valves, sound is not produced actually. And then fourth one, duration of a cardiac cycle. Duration of a single one cardiac cycle is 0.8 seconds they has given. Okay, so here, love, it is the first heart sound due to the sudden closure of bicuspid and tricuspid valve, that is correct. Cardiac output is equal to stroke volume into heart rate or number of heartbeats, that is also correct. Dub, it is of course the second heart sound, but it occurs due to the opening, not opening of semilunar valve, it occurs due to closing, sudden closure of these semilunar valves. So this is the incorrect match and right option, option 3. Next question, read the following statements and find out the incorrect statement. First statement, heart is situated in the thoracic cavity in between the two lungs, slightly tilted towards the right. Our heart, it is not slightly tilted towards right, it is slightly tilted towards left. And second, heart has the size of a clenched fist. So it has the size of a clenched fist, of course, yes. And then here they are asking for incorrect statements. Okay. Third statement, heart is protected by a double-walled membranous bag, pericardium enclosed the pericardial fluid, of course. And fourth one, human heart has 4 chambers. It has 4 chambers. 2 respectively larger upper chambers called atria, and then 2 smaller lower chambers called ventricles. See, when you observe, upper chambers are called as auricles and the lower one are called as ventricles. But ventricles are larger in size when compared to the auricles, because the auricles, it just receives the blood. It just receives the blood from lungs as well as other body parts. but ventricles are involved in the contraction and thus it is involved in the pumping of blood. See, left ventricle, when it undergoes contraction, it pumps the oxygenated blood into the aorta, and through the aorta now oxygenated blood moves to the arteries, arterioles and capillaries. Whereas when this right ventricle contracts, it powerfully contracts to push the blood. What kind of blood? Deoxygenated blood into the pulmonary artery, so that this deoxygenated blood can reach where? Lungs for the purification. So okay. And then fifth statement. A thick muscular wall called interatrial septum separates the right and left atria. So here they are saying a thick interauricular septum is present and it is thick, they are saying, and whereas a thin walled interventricular septum separates the left and right ventricles. No, see, these two are separated by the thick walled interventricular septum. So which are the incorrect statements here? Let us look at the options now. Option 1, 2, 3 and 4. Second option 1, 4 and 5. Third option 1 and 4. Fourth option 2, 3 and 5. So we have already discussed about that. So which is the right option? Option 2, that is 1, 4 and 5 statements, they are incorrect. Next, in a standard ECG, which one of the following alphabets is the correct representation of the respective activity of the human heart? First one, T. It is the end of diastole. Second option, P. Depolarization of atria. Third, R. Repolarization of ventricles. And 4, S. Yes, it indicates the start of systole. See here, the P wave, it indicates the depolarization of atria and thus heartbeat is initiated. Whereas QRS complex, it indicates the depolarization of ventricles and the contraction of ventricles. That is, this is ventricular systole. And then this T, the end of T, it indicates the end of systole. Okay, so which is the right option? It is P, depolarization of atria. Option 2. The last in cardiac conduction sequence is option 1, AV bundle, 2, Purkinje fibers, 3, SCA node and 4, AV node. So which is the correct one here? See, the electrical impulses, they are started from the SCAN, that is sinoatrial node. It undergoes depolarization and it will be releasing the electrical impulses. And these now reach the AVN, and through the AVN, through the AV bundle, and thus finally reaches the Purkinje fibers. So which is the right option? Option 2. Okay, so those action potential are started here, that is at the SCAN node and finally ends at the Purkinje fibers, so that it results in a powerful ventricular systole. That means systole in the sense contraction, which results in the pumping of blood. Okay. So which vessel type is not correctly matched with one of its functions? First one, arterioles return blood from the tissues to the atria. Second, arteries conduct blood away from the heart. Veins serves as a blood reservoir. And fourth one, capillaries is the site of exchange of substances between the blood and tissue fluid. Of course, all are correct. See, the left ventricle, it powerfully undergoes systole to pump the blood into the aorta. From the aorta, oxygenated blood enters into the arteries, and through the arteries now it reaches the arterioles and then finally at the capillaries. So option 1, arterioles return blood from the tissues to atria. So arterioles will never return the blood from the tissues to the atria. So that is the wrong statement, wrong match, but right option. The heartbeat increases at the time of interview due to option A, secretion of adrenaline, B, hypersecretion of renin, C, corticotrophic hormone, D, antidiuretic hormone secretion. See, at the time of interview heartbeat, it increases. It is due to the release of adrenaline. You people know that adrenaline, it is an emergency hormone, or it is also called as flight hormone, or stress hormone. So during the stress or fight or flight or fright, during these circumstances, adrenaline, it is released to maintain the heartbeat, so that it is also called as the emergency hormone. So option A, that is secretion of adrenaline. And second option, hypersecretion of renin. Okay. And the third option they has given as corticotrophic hormone, and fourth option is antidiuretic hormone secretion. So option 1 is the right one. Next, in a normal ECG recording, the heart sound will occur. Option 1, on the P wave and at the end of QRS complex. Second, at the end of P wave and on the T wave. Third one, on the QRS complex and at the end of T wave. And fourth one, at the end of QRS complex and on the T wave. So heartbeat, heart sound, it occurs on the QRS complex and the end of T wave. Why? Because QRS, it indicates the ventricular systole. So when the powerful contraction of ventricles occurs, there will be a sudden closure of the mitral valve, and that is dicuspid valve and bicuspid valve, and hence sound will be produced there. Option 3. Next, on the ECG recording, the maximum ventricular pressure would be. See, on the ECG recording, the maximum ventricular pressure would be at T wave, that is option A. B, at QRS complex. C, between QRS complex and T wave. And fourth one, between P and QRS complex. So maximum ventricular pressure will be during the ventricular systole, that is contraction. QRS, it indicates the ventricular systole. So option 2. Next, if the T wave of an ECG is flat, it indicates option 1, heart muscles are receiving insufficient oxygen. Second, enlargement of atria. Third, myocardial infarction. And 4, all of these. See, if the T wave is flat in the ECG, see, if this T wave is flat, it indicates what condition they are asking. Option 1, heart muscles are receiving insufficient oxygen. Second, enlargement of atria. Third one, myocardial infarction, nothing but heart attack. 4, all of this. So when it gets flattened, when the heart is receiving, heart cells are receiving insufficient oxygenated blood or oxygen. So T wave, it gets flattened. Option A. In this figure, see, they has given this ECG graph. In this figure, they has indicated, mark this as 1. Okay. So peak point 1 is represented by letter, and so which one is that you should tell. So option 1 Q, 2 P, 3 S, 4 R. So what it is nothing but R. Option 4. The T waves in ECG represent option A, depolarization of ventricles. Second one, repolarization of ventricles. Third one, depolarization of atria, and repolarization of atria. So here T waves, it represents the repolarization of ventricles. That means these ventricles again, they receive the negative charge which was formerly given off. So option 2. What does the electrocardiogram QRS wave indicate is happening in the heart? So what is happening during QRS complex in the ECG? First option, the ventricles are depolarizing while the atria repolarizes. Second, the atria are depolarizing. Third, the heart is at rest. Fourth, the ventricles are repolarizing. So what does this QRS say? The ventricles are depolarizing whereas the atria repolarizes. That means atria, it relaxes during QRS complex, but ventricles they undergoes the contraction. Depolarization, due to depolarization, contraction of chambers occurs. During the repolarization, relaxation of chambers occurs usually. Option A. The first heart sound is produced when? Option 1, semilunar valve closes quickly. B, bicuspid and tricuspid valves close quickly. Third one, diastole begins. And fourth one, interventricular pressure decreases. So when does this first heart sound, which is the first heart sound? It is love, L-U-B-B, love. So this is the first heart sound, and when does this occur? It is during the sudden closure of these two valves, that is bicuspid and tricuspid valves, option 2. Next, the given below figure, it is the diagrammatic representation of standard ECG, and here we have to match. So we have to find out here. Okay, so column 1 and column 2, A, matching A, P wave, ventricular depolarization followed by ventricular contraction. Second, B, QRS complex, atrial depolarization followed by systole. C, T wave, and on this side, ventricular repolarization followed by ventricular relaxation. So we have to match the columns 1 and 2. So what does this P wave, it indicates? The P wave in this, it indicates the atrial depolarization followed by systole of both atria. So here what happens? Both the atria undergoes depolarization. As a result, both the atria undergoes contraction, and that is called as a systole. And QRS complex. So the QRS complex, it indicates the ventricular, QRS, it is related to the ventricular contraction. So here what happens? During QRS, atrial depolarization occurs. First atria undergoes contraction, and then those signals will be moved towards the ventricles. So when these moves towards here, atricles, it relaxes, and now ventricles, what happens? They contract. So this is indicated by this QRS complex. And then T wave. So here T wave, it indicates the ventricular repolarization. That is, ventricles, they relaxes. So the ventricular repolarization is followed by ventricular repolarization. So from the excited state, ventricle returns from the excited state to the non-excited state, normal state. So option, I'll read out the options. Option 1, A1, B2, C3. Second option, A3, B2, C1. Third option, A2, B3, C1. And fourth option, A2, B1 and C3. Okay. Next, which is the right option? That is fourth one. An increase in blood volume will cause. Option A decrease in renin secretion. Second, an increase in Na plus excretion in the urine. 3, a decrease in ADH secretion. 4, all the above. So it results in increase in Na plus excretion, that is sodium excretion in case of urine, that is option 2. Read the following statements and choose the correct option. Statement 1 and statement 2. Here they have given statement 1 and 2. So you should clarify whether both the statements are relatable and which statement is dependent on which statement. Statement 1. Atria receive blood from all the parts of the body which subsequently flows into the ventricles. That is the function of atria. Statement 2. Action potentials generated at sinoatrial node passes from atria to ventricles. It passes from atria to ventricles through the nodal tissue. Of course, this is the through nodal tissue. What happens? These action potentials will be reaching the ventricles. Okay, here both the statements are, of course, true. So here what happens? First condition is atria, it receives the blood from all the parts when atrial depolarization occurs. So once it receives the blood, atrial depolarization occurs, which results in the contraction of auricles. And then what happens? Next, this blood has to flow into the ventricles. At that time, the signal will be still here. So once it flows into here, what happens? Now these action potentials from this side, now it will reach to the ventricles. So option 1, action mentioned in statement 1 dependent on action mentioned in statement 2. Second option, action mentioned in statement 1 and 2 are independent to each other. Third one, action mentioned in statement 2 is dependent on action mentioned in the statement 1. Fourth one, action mentioned in statement 1 and 2 are synchronous. Which is the right option? Option 3. Next question. In adult man, normal blood pressure is 1, 80. What do you mean by blood pressure? So it is the pressure exerted by the blood against the wall of arteries is called as blood pressure. So it is given by, BP is given by systolic pressure divided by, that is systolic pressure by diastolic pressure. So what is the systolic pressure? It is 120 mmHg, whereas diastolic pressure it is 80 mmHg. And the difference between them is called as pulse pressure, which is 80 mmHg, okay, 40 mmHg. Okay. So in adult man, options, I'll read out the options for this question. In adult man, normal blood pressure is option 1, 80 by 120 mmHg, second one 100 by 80 mmHg, third one 180 by 80 120 by 80 mmHg, fourth one 100 by 120 mmHg. So which is the normal blood pressure? That is 120 by 80 mmHg, which is the third option. Next, persons suffering from high blood pressure should take the following precautions to avoid excessive rise in their blood pressure. So one should avoid certain circumstances here. So let us look at the options. Option 1, avoid standing. Second, increasing their weight. Third one, sleep as much as possible. And fourth one, avoid emotional disturbance and excitement. So what should one avoid to avoid the increase in BP? It is one should avoid their emotional disturbance and excitement. Option 4. If they get excited, their BP will also get excited. Next, the circulation which provides nutrients and essential substances to the tissue and takes other harmful substances away from elimination. Away for elimination is. So the circulation which provides nutrients, essential substances to the tissues and takes the other harmful substances away for circulation is. Option 1, pulmonary circulation. Pulmonary refers to the lungs. So the flow of blood takes place from heart to the lungs for purification, and once it is purified, oxygenated blood enters into the heart, that is left atrium, through the two pairs of pulmonary arteries. So that is called as pulmonary circulation. Second option, systemic circulation. Third one, systematic circulation. Fourth one, double circulation. So it is systemic circulation. So here what happens? Blood, it is pumped from left auricles through the aorta, arteries, arterioles, capillaries. So at this point what happens? Oxygen from the capillaries, it enters, it diffuses into the cells, and carbon dioxide it enters into the venules. So from venules, the deoxygenated blood flows through the veins, systemic veins, and through that now it enters into the right auricle. Okay, so which is the right option? Option 2, systemic circulation. Next, a correct systemic circulation pathway is. So which is the systemic circulation here? I'll read out the options. Option 1, right ventricle to pulmonary aorta to tissue to pulmonary vein to left auricle. Second one, right auricle to left ventricle to aorta to tissues to veins. Third one, left auricle to left ventricle to pulmonary aorta to tissues to right auricles. And fourth one, left auricle to left ventricle to, they has given porta. So you scratch that and you write it as aorta. So I will read out the option again. Left auricle to left ventricle to aorta to arteries to tissues, veins and right atrium. So which is the right option? It is 4. What would happen if there is a failure of receiving the atrial impulse? What would happen if there is a failure in receiving of atrial impulse by the ventricles or completely independent contraction of atria and ventricles? So if this signals does not reach ventricles, or if the contraction of these two, it is not dependent with each other. So what happens in that condition? So in that condition, I'll read out the options. So option A, ventricular escape. B, Stokes Adams syndrome. C, irregularity in heart rhythm. D, arteriosclerosis. Again options, A only, second one A and B, third one A, B and C, fourth one A, B, C and D. See, what do you mean by ventricular escape? So here what happens is, self-generated electrical discharge occurs which is initiated and causing ventricular contractions. So there will be a self-generated electrical impulses occurs. And then Stokes-Adams syndrome. So it is a condition where it always depends upon how much the heart pumps, and also how much the heart receives and pumps the blood. So it all depends upon how much the blood it enters into the brain. So in this consequence, what happens under such consequences, your brain may receive too much of blood, so too much of blood too fastly or too slowly, so less amount of blood can be reaching the brain. Under such circumstances, what happens, when the blood it moves too fastly or too slowly to the brain, it results in the fainting. That means that person, he becomes unconscious suddenly, and even that patient may die or pass out. Okay. And D, arteriosclerosis. So which is the right option here? It is A, B and C. What happens when there is no coordination here? So it may result in ventricular escape, that is self-generated electrical impulses may occur, self-electrical discharge may occur, or it may result in strokes, that is Adams syndrome. So there the blood, it may pass to the brain too slowly or too fastly, which results in the dizziness and the person may die. Irregularity in heart rhythm. So when the electrical impulses does not pass correctly, what happens? It results in the irregular heart rhythm. So option C. Which of the following contains blood with the lowest oxygen content? Option 1, aorta. Second one, left atrium. Third, right ventricle. Fourth, pulmonary veins. So which is the right option? That is third one, right ventricle. Because right ventricle, it will be receiving deoxygenated blood. Okay. Next question. Blood vessel of diaphragm is called. First one, cardiac. Second one, phrenic. Third one, coronary. And fourth one, pulmonary. The term phrenic, it refers to the diaphragm. So those veins are called as phrenic. Those blood vessels are called as phrenic blood vessels. And the muscles of diaphragm are called as phrenic muscles. Option 2. Next, hepatic portal system starts from. Option A, liver to heart. Second one, kidney to liver. Third one, liver to kidney. Fourth one, digestive system to liver. So which is the hepatic portal system? Means it starts from digestive system to the liver before going into the systemic circulation. Next, the vein which is formed from the capillaries of body parts and terminates into kidneys before entering the heart is called. So they are asking the vein which is formed from the capillaries of body parts and terminates into the kidneys before entering into the heart is called. Option 1, coronary vein. Second one, systemic vein. Third one, renal portal vein. Fourth one, pulmonary vein. So it is called as renal portal vein. Renal refers to kidney, portal in the sense as I told you. So from one organ or one system to other before entering into the systemic circulation. So that is third one. Next, lymph vessels are united to form. Option 1, lymph heart. Second, jugular vein. Third one, cisterna chyli. Fourth one, thoracic duct. So it is united to form cisterna chyli. Lymph vessels will be united to form cisterna chyli. Option 3. What does lymph do? Option 1, transports carbon dioxide to lungs. Second one, transports oxygen to brain. Third one, returns interstitial fluid to blood. Fourth one, returns RBCs and WBCs to lymph nodes. What does it do? It returns the interstitial fluid to the blood. Option 3. Next, read the following statements and find out the incorrect statement. First statement, all vertebrates and a few invertebrates have a closed circulatory system. Of course. And then, hypertension leads to second option. So, second statement, hypertension leads to heart disease and also affects vital organs like brain and lungs. That has given, but it affects the kidney, not lungs. And that is also wrong. And third one, CAD, coronary artery disease, affects the vessels that supply blood to the skeletal muscles. No. So it affects the vessels that supply blood to the cardiac tissues, that is the cells of the heart. And then in angina, a symptom of chronic chest pain occurs when not enough oxygen is reaching the heart muscle. So not oxygen, it is actually oxygenated blood. Next statement, heart attack means the state of heart when it is not pumping blood effectively enough to meet the need of the body. So heart attack means the death of the localized tissues. So localized death of the tissues is called heart attack. Whereas if the blood is not effectively enough to meet the need of body, so that condition results to heart failure. So here I'll read out the options. Option 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5. Second one, 1 and 4. Third one, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Fourth one, 2, 3 and 4 statements. So which is the right option and incorrect statements? It is second, third, fourth and fifth are the incorrect statements. Option 3.